And welcome back to another Paul's Aquariums video. We are going to open one of these IQ5 aquariums. We did the IQ3 last week. There'll be a link on the IQ3 at the end of this video if you want to see that build. This one we're going to use mostly Dymax products. We're going to do an easy setup, so going to have live plants in it, but it's not going to have CO2 or anything too fancy like that. So if you haven't seen these little tanks from Dymax before, curved front, which is kind of cool, super clear perspex, come with a high-powered LED, a little trickle filter in the back. We're going to pull it out of the box and see all the bits and pieces. I think this one is, 18 litres, which is about 5 US gallons, give or take a little bit. Awesome instructions, as we just saw. Do not drop tank on floor. Oh, what a shame. Now these tanks come in purple, red or black. I'm pretty sure I ordered the purple one, so we'll see if it is the purple or not. It's got a red box. Don't know why. Maybe because red is more popular than purple, but it doesn't come with a heater, but we can add a little heater. There's room in the sump for that. Very cool little tank. Let's open it and see if we have in fact broken it. Sorry, ooh, look at that, just missed the camera. Now, it should come with, oh look, instructions. Yes, simple stuff, easy to maintain. Here's all the extra bits and pieces. And this time I did order a whole lot of extra bits and pieces. There's polishing paste, there's a spray bar we're going to install. There's the polishing paste stuff there. Little tiny lids, we did get a lid. Didn't get a protein skimmer because we're not going to do marine. That is a super tiny tank for marine, but again, it can work if you know what you're doing. Yes, and other bits and pieces. So lots of instructions, probably pay you to read those. We're not going to. That is most likely a transformer. Oh, and I think it's a double. You have one transformer with 2 plugs. So one will be for the light and one will be for the filter. I don't think the IQ3 had that, or did it? We're going to have to double check. I think this is going to be a little bit different than the IQ3. Wow. And yep, there is our light in the bottom of the box. And then same sort of light as the IQ3. There is 2 little touch sensors there. One is a blue light, one is a white light, so you can have them both on or just one or the other. And it is a flexible, I think they call it a gooseneck, which is kind of bizarre. And the whole light flexes. So there are the LEDs there. That is the light bit. And in the box, that is all we get. We get filter media. And this is a little bit different than the IQ3 as well. So you get a little thing of carbon. Yeah, some sort of ceramic media, I think they are. And then a great big sponge down the bottom. And there is your pump in there. So we're going to get it out of the box. Make sure it's not broken. Whoops, do not drop it on the floor. And would you look at that? It is not broken. But yes, definitely don't drop it on the floor. That is just a stupid thing to do. I wonder if Dymax ever sees any of these videos. I am definitely not sponsored by Dymax and probably never will be. But it is purple, so all it means with the colors is just like a sticker on the sides and back. Obviously you can take that off if you don't like the color, but they come in normal colors as well as purple. Not that purple isn't a normal color, but you know what I mean. The pump is different. So that is 180 litres an hour, but it is a small, compact little pump. Now, all these pumps have a little tiny high-low switch, which is that thing there. If you push that over, that reduces the flow, and then push it back, and you get more water going through there. And the whole pump will come apart. So there's a little clip there, and a little clip there. We're going to open that. And that is the impeller. So you want to clean the impeller every second time you clean the filter media, otherwise that's going to get clogged and build up with lots of gunk and stuff like that. So the way that the filter works is a little pump sits in the back of the tank. It pumps the water up this little tube, and then that is a little nozzle that just comes off that little bit there, and that wedges into the little hole. If we have a look at the front of the tank, there are little vents here. The water overflows in there. It goes into this little compartment, which is all your filter media, comes up here, which you can pop your little heater or what have you, or a protein skimmer for marine, and then it goes back into here, and then that gets pumped back through that little hole into the main tank. Very simple filtration. I did double check the IQ3, and the IQ3 has got separate plugs for both, so this is a little bit of an upgrade from the IQ3, which is a pretty good little upgrade. Bigger tank and easy to use, one plug. Okay, so installing the light is pretty easy. So the lights of these IQ5s are a little bit bigger than the IQ3 that we did last time. So everything is sort of upgraded on this tank. You have two little screw bits there. That just slots in, and then you just turn those little screws so it's nice and tight. Easy as that. So with the plugs, you've got obviously one for your pump. So you don't want to plug the pump in until you've got water in there. But the other one will just fit underneath there, in there. Now there are two dull little lights, a little blue one there and a little white one there, and those are your switches. So they're just a touch sensor. So if you touch that, the white light is on. If you touch the other blue one, there we go, the blue one is on. So you can turn the white off and just have blue like that. Ooh, that's kind of cool, isn't it? So that's more of a nighttime light, so the fish can still see. They're not going to freak out, jump out of the tank or hit the lid or anything like that. And you can have both on. So the blue spectrum is just going to make the water look a little bit clearer and gets rid of that sort of yellow tinge to everything. But that is how the light works. Obviously you want the lights off at night so the fish can sleep. So now that we've got our lights in, we know our pump will work and it'll just suck the water through. It does have a little drip tray as well. I don't know if I even showed you that in the start of the video, but the drip tray is the first thing, then the sponge, and then your biomedia, and then your big sponge down below. So now that that is all sorted, what we're going to do is fill it up with some substrate. And for the substrate of this aquarium, I'm going to use the Dymax base soil. It is a little pelletized clay ball that has been baked to get rid of most of the organics. So you're not going to get any ammonia or nitrites leaking out of it once it absorbs in the water. So it's going to maintain its shape for a good couple of years, and eventually it's going to turn to a mud sediment on the bottom. Because we're only going to have smaller fish in this aquarium, we're just going to use this as our main substrate, and we're not actually going to put anything else on top of it. And there is a fair few bits and pieces from Dymax. Okay, where do we even start? Let's start with the substrate. This is a 3 litre bag of their aqua soil or their base soil. I've used about 2/3 of the 3 litre bag. It comes in like a 1 litre bag, a 9 litre bag, so there's a fair few different sizes, but that is the substrate we've already used. In this build, we're going to use a little air pump. If you don't know what an air pump is, we've got videos at what they do, but all they do is they sit outside the aquarium, they pump air through tubing, and there is some lovely tubing there, and then you get bubbles at the end of that. So if you've ever seen little air stones and stuff like that in aquariums, this is what makes the air in the aquarium. So we've got an air pump like that. We have one-way valves. They're super important because if you have your air pump below the water level, well, outside the tank, not inside the tank because that stays on the outside, water can siphon back into the pump from the tank with gravity if the power goes out. So this just stops that from happening because air will go through one way and then it won't go back through the other way, so you won't get a siphoning effect with your aquarium tank. They're super, super important. We've also got this cool little U-bendy thing, which of course is upside down in their packaging. That will sit on the tank rim itself, and you have your tubing going from the pump to this and then back into the aquarium. And it just stops the tubing from kinking, because if you have your tubing over like that, it can kink and stuff it all up, and then you get less air, yaddy, yaddy, yaddy. So that is our air bits and pieces. We did get some polishing paste. Ooh, ah. Now, I have never used this stuff. I've never really had any acrylic tanks apart from the tiny little acrylic tanks like from the Dymax ones. But this is a little kit for getting rid of scratches, apparently. Has some sort of cloth type thing and some magic lotion. Ooh, ah. What we might do is scratch up the tank and see if we can repair it. Isn't that a great idea? Yeah, I'm sure Dymax is going to love that. Like, he's going to do what? We might accidentally scratch the tank and we might have to use this stuff in the video. Definitely not sponsored by Dymax. We have a little thermometer, pretty straightforward. Suction caps on the inside, tells you what temperature it is. We have a spray bar. The spray bar is, instead of the little spout where the water pumps back into the tank, you can attach the spray bar and the water will spray through the bar. Pretty straightforward. I have not actually ever used one of those in one of these mini tanks, so we're going to use that in this build. Dymax even has their own imported wood. Check out that. That's called Tweety wood, apparently. I don't know, maybe it's made of birds, not entirely sure. We are going to glue these with some of this stuff, which is your compost seal, onto rocks and all sorts of stuff. If you haven't seen this before, we have videos on this as well. This is awesome. It's like a little fluff that you put between the two rocks. You use a liquid super glue, like this sort of stuff here, and it will fuse the two rocks or the rock and wood together so you can create awesome, awesome bits and pieces. So that's going to be super fun for the scape. We have this stuff, which is your Flora Bond gel glue. This is like a gel super glue for gluing plants onto rocks and plants onto driftwood and stuff like that. And we have a lid for the IQ5. Yes, and I think this one looks like it's got maybe 3 hinges. I could be wrong. We'll find out in this video because I've never actually opened one of these before, but a lid as well. And I think the last little thing we've got, Dymax-wise, is a floating feeding tray that floats on the water surface. You put your food in there and it doesn't go through the intake of your filter. Super fun, super easy. That's all our Dymax bits and pieces. Now we're going to assemble them onto the tank. And I thought I would just quickly show you how the air pump is set up. Obviously this is our air pump that stays out of the water completely. We connect just our silicone tubing from that. You can go as long as you want because there's no pressure out of the water. So you can have this in another room if you find it a little bit noisy with the vibration, or in a cabinet, or wherever you want. We're going to place this well under the tank so you're not going to see it at all. The tubing will go all the way to the aquarium. You want your little one-way valve close to the tank so that if any water does siphon back, it stops at the one-way valve. If you've got it near the pump, that's going to siphon water all the way through to the one-way valve, which is a lot of pressure for the pump to pump back up if there's a power cut, etc., etc. And all that one-way valve does, as I said before, is just stops the water siphoning back into your pump if the power goes off for some reason. So we have a little bit of tubing from our one-way valve attaching to our little hooky bit that's going to go onto the tank, and then we're going to have some tubing from this into our weird rock feature. You could also use one of these, which is an air stone. They're the things that just make the bubbles into finer bubbles. So if you don't have one of these and just have the tubing sitting in your tank with bubbles coming out, big bubbles, lots of noise, etc., etc. You can also get regulator valves that you can put in line and reduce the pressure. And let's jump to our rock feature. And we have made a wonderful lighthouse. It's kind of a droopy lighthouse. The whole idea is we have our silicone tubing behind all these rocks, and these are all joined up with your compost seal. And we have a little hole opening there, so we're going to have some bubbles coming up. Our little lighthouse is going to sit perched like that, and there'll be a few bubbles coming out of the top of the lighthouse. What I might also do is use some of this stuff, which is your Flora Bond gel glue stuff, which is like a tacky super glue. We're going to place it around the base of the lighthouse, and then we're going to use something like this stuff, which is a freshwater seaweed called Substrate. So we're going to have nice bushes of plants around the main shaft of the lighthouse. And our aquarium's been set up for about 4 or 5 days now, so we've slowly been adjusting the pH. The substrate will help alter the water hardness and the pH as well, and the water has been dechlorinated. So it's important to double check what your water parameters are like before you add anything alive like the Substrate on the lighthouse. Otherwise, that can damage your plants and cause all sorts of issues. So we do have the little lid on top as well. It did have 3 hinges. I've actually taken one hinge off, as you can see there, which has left a little gap, which is going to be perfect for our airline to go through. So that's probably the only issue with the lids for these little Dymax tanks, and they are cool little lids, look, they hinge up and everything, is there is no holes for any extra bits and pieces. Sure, you can drill a hole in it, which I did with the IQ3, but it would be nice to have a little hole or something that you can just have airline tubing or what have you. So now that our water is balanced, we are going to add our lovely lighthouse. Well, isn't that lovely? Our lighthouse is bubbling away quite content. So I do have a regulator on the air pump, and I've just turned it down so there's a few bubbles because Billy Bob, our Betta fish lurking at the back, doesn't like a lot of circulation. I've also attached the spray bar onto the outtake of the pump, and that is aiming at the back of the tank. So there's circulation, but there's not a ton of circulation. So Betta fish like Billy Bob really don't like a lot of circulation. They breathe through the surface. He's going to be quite content and build a nest of bubbles in his floating plants soon. So with the plants, I have a little bit of duckweed, which is the smaller stuff, and Amazon frogbit, which is the bigger stuff. Main thing with duckweed and floating plants is you want to keep maintaining it and removing it so it doesn't completely cover the whole tank. Otherwise, that's going to reduce the flow to the Substrate. Even though Substrate is a low light, very easy to care for plant, and same with the Java moss we've got attached to the rocks, it still needs a little bit of light. So Billy Bob is lurking around. His only friends in here, apart from Dr. Strangebottom, who happens to be inside a translucent pill. Don't even ask about that. Dr. Strangebottom! Yes. We have some lovely red ram's horn snails. Did I say wobbly? I did. They're wobbly. Look how wobbly they are. So ram's horn snails are not really going to get out of control unless there's too much food in the tank, and Billy Bob will pick off the little baby ones. Only problem with these lids is they don't have any holes or anything in them. Obviously you can drill a little hole in it, but it was easier to just remove that little hinge to have that. So if you're watching this, Dymax, make a little slot or something that we can put air tubing in. That would be wonderful. Otherwise, pretty awesome little tank. It is fully curved, it is super clear. We've got our little feeding tray floating up the top, so when we do feed Billy Bob, the food doesn't float around and go through the overflow. Everything is working pretty perfectly. It is nice, it is quiet, it is very purple. A very cool tank. So eventually this is going to completely grow in, but this is only a couple of weeks old. If you did enjoy this video, click the thumbs up so I know. If you want to see more little tank setups like this one, comment down below, and we will see you in the next video. Oh, and I totally forgot to scratch the tank and see if that scratching stuff worked. I might do that in another video. If you want to see me scratch up one of these tanks, comment down below or click the thumbs up. Whoopsie. If you want to watch any other videos of tank setups, there's a few on the screen for you now, and we will see you in the next video.